Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Scott January with the College of Business and a faculty fellow with the Center for Educational Excellence. And welcome to this accessibility recap. I'm just going to go over a brief refresher of the Americans with Disabilities Act and talk about how it impacts our online courses and what the best practices look like in that. So in this session, we're going to talk about what is ADA and even what is WCA G or WCAG, tips for use inside of our learning management system, which is Canvas, and then tips for some of our applications that we use, and even finish up with talking about universal design for learning and what that means to us. So the Americans with Disabilities Act came to be a law in 1990. It's a civil rights law to make sure that individuals are not discriminated against in jobs and schools, transportations, public and private places, and so forth. The purpose is to ensure that anybody with a disability has the same rights and opportunities as everyone else, and it also gives civil rights protections. So as educators, we need to remember this term good faith effort, meaning that we make reasonable efforts to make modifications to better help students. Now, an employer can't be faulted if it offers a good faith effort that is rejected that's fair and reasonable. Additionally, we as educators don't have to waive or change the requirements of a course if they are essential to the course and it would fundamentally alter the program. So if there's ever a time where a requested accommodation just comes up as not being fair or reasonable, that is where either the appropriate staff or faculty would step in to work with the student to find some common ground that is what would be amiable. And that could be giving more time on an exam, an alternative location to take a test, and even some alternate formats, far as written or multiple choice, those kinds of items. In other cases, it might even be reasonable to just substitute a specific course for another one in the completion of that degree program. So, what is WCA G or WCAG? It is actually a set of internationally recognized standards. It was developed for the World Wide Web by the W3C. That's a mouthful, isn't it? The World Wide Web Consortium. And it's to make web content more accessible to people with disabilities. So we are currently, I think the most adopted version is 2.1, but I think 2.2 is being rolled out right now. And this particular set of standards focuses on visual impairments, hearing impairments, motor impairments, and cognitive and learning disabilities, much of which are covered by the things we already have in place by the university. So WCAG uses an acronym for their principles, their core principles, and they call it POUR: perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. So perceivable means that it appeals to the senses, sight, hearing, or touch. Operable means that you have to be able to interact with it. Understandable means that the information is clear and consistent. And then robust means that it works across multiple technologies or assistive technologies and so forth. So how does this matter in higher ed? The legal institutions that are receiving federal funding. Also, we want things to be digitally equitable to support diverse learners. And then also, we do want it to tie in with universal design for learning, which I will touch on here later in this presentation. So here's something, if you want to freeze the screen, here are some examples of WCAG and what it looks like if we were to really peel back the layers of the onion. So some of the tools that help, I will focus, you can see here, you can go ahead and feel free to read these. I'm going to focus on the last three. We have Microsoft Accessibility Checker that helps all of our Microsoft tools. We have Ally that we actually have at the university that is running in the background of our learning management system, which is Canvas. And then also, this also pertains to the use of JAWS, which is a screen reader for those who are visually impaired. So let's see what an application, or more of the application of how it looks inside of Canvas. So one of the things that you can do inside of Canvas to make your course more accessible is just use headings. Now you can see here, this is the screenshot is when you are in a page and you're in edit mode. That is the rich content editor. And it looks like a Word document, but you can see up at the top, there is a paragraph selector where you can choose different headings. Making this adjustment will help those with screen readers be able to quickly move through the content without having to just listen to it read straight through. If you just put in just a straight paragraph without any of these headings, That means that they could go take a break, come back, and then later they have to listen to the whole thing all over again without being able to quickly move from topic to topic, if that makes sense. So one of the next things that you can use inside of Canvas is the link checker. This link checker will scan the entire Canvas course and just make sure that none of your links are broken. You'd be surprised when we copy courses or websites change over the years, a lot of our links get broken in our courses. So by running this simple tool under the settings area inside your Canvas course, will actually give you a brief report and show you if anything needs to be updated or removed altogether. Let's take a look at the Canvas ADA checker. We actually have that inside of Canvas, which is really awesome. So anytime you edit a page, just like here in this, you can see the little arrows at the bottom here. There's an arrow pointing to a green circle with a little person inside of it. That is the ADA checker. And if you click on it, it actually opens up a panel that starts a wizard. And you just go through the next buttons, and it's going to tell you what you need to do in order to make whatever item it deems as maybe a potential issue more accessible. And it's pretty straightforward. The next thing that we want to talk about are alternative text. Now, alternative text refers to descriptive information that is embedded in imagery that we put either in digital documents or inside of Canvas or both. And so there is actually a way to label these images where students that are visually impaired and using a screen reader can actually understand what that image is. And so the way that looks is, let's say that in this scenario here that I'm showing you, that you're uploading an image to a page in Canvas. You're in edit mode, you click on the picture button, you select your computer or wherever you pull the image from, and then you upload it. Over on the right-hand side, it says upload area. That alt text field is for you to put in what the image actually is. So let's say it's a bowl of fruit. You would put a bowl of fruit. You don't have to say it's an image of a bowl of fruit, because a lot of times with screen readers, it will tell the student this is an image of, and then all you have to do is supply the punchline, so to speak. In the event that you are using more curb appeal and something just decorative, you can just click on the check mark or the checkbox called decorative image, and then the screen reader will just jump right over it like it never existed, so the student doesn't get confused. Another best practice in digital documents and or our learning management system are how we use hyperlinks, or the use of hyperlinks. So we want to make sure that we don't use super long hyperlinks, because if you've ever looked at a web page, whether it be a journal article or whatever it is, and the address is nothing that you could remember because it's chocked full of numbers and hieroglyphics and whatnot, imagine having to hear that on a screen reader. It'd be terrifying. So you can use tiny URL or shorten URL, these free things that are out there, to either condense a hyperlink, or you can make what I call a custom hyperlink, which I'll show you here in a minute. But it's a best practice to keep them a little shorter and try to make them descriptive if you can. So here's what I'm talking about. You can see in this illustration at the bottom, I've highlighted a few words here, or 4 words actually, video about the ocean. If I wanted to make that into a live link, I would highlight it and then go up to the top to the little chain link button and click on it. And then I would choose whether it's going to be a course link or an external link. Once I've done so, then I can put in a text description about what it is, so that whether they have any kind of disability or not, when they mouse over it, a little pop-up bubble will tell it video about the ocean. And then your web link, that super long thing that nobody can remember, you can paste it into that link field and click done. And then when you do, it's just going to make the words a live link. They'll click on it, it'll take them straight there. So one of the biggest and one of my favorite accomplishments of ADA in the digital age, especially in learning management systems, is the use of closed captioning video. Yes, closed captioning has been around for quite a while in regular television, but for a lot of us in education, this was not something that was viable or even affordable. Back in the day when we would close caption things, you would send videos off to services and it would be $4 a minute. Imagine captioning hundreds of videos or thousands of videos for a university, the price can be pretty exorbitant, and then the hours is extreme too. Even if you used back in the day the softwares, that they were very archaic, and you would have to, for every 1 minute of video, it would take you 10 minutes to manually type in all of those captions. The great thing about our learning management system in Canvas is it will do it magically for you. So this is what that would look like. So if you're inside of Canvas Studio, and let's say you just uploaded or created a video, you would hover over it and click the view button, and then you could come in and you can see that there is an area here where it says details, comments, insights, and captions. If you click on this option, it will actually allow you to submit a captions request. And that captions request, it'll ask you what language was spoken in this video. You do the drop down arrow, and whatever language you recorded in is the language you would select. For me, that would be English. Unfortunately, at this point in time, it doesn't do cross translations. I would imagine with AI technologies evolving the way they are, that maybe in the future that may actually change. But for right now, you have to choose the actual language that was spoken and click request. After you do, you'll get an email that telling you to return to the video. You would repeat the steps, come back to the captions area, and you have a review and publish button that will appear. And once you click on it, you will get a transcript just like this with all of what you've said or what it perceived you said, and it allows you as the instructor to review it, make sure there's no weird spellings or words that you didn't say, just like if you sent a voice text. It's that same kind of technology. You can make some adjustments if you need to, and then you can click the publish button that you can see, that little green button there. So let's take this a little further. We talked about just now the learning management system and the tools that we have in there. But let's think about from the things that we put inside of the learning management system. Namely, a lot of our documents are digital in this day and age. And so here are some tips on making sure that the things you're creating in those documents are accessible. So we'll cover headings, lists, hyperlinks, alt tags, and ADA checkers inside of the actual Microsoft suite, because this is now inside of their programming. So inside of Word, and I will give Microsoft a tip of the hat here, their use of ADA is actually quite good. They've done a good job of giving us tools to make things more accessible. So one of the things that you can do in a Word document, first and foremost, is use your headers. That is this area right here. A lot of times we don't have our pages all the way expanded where we can't see all the full functionality. But if you stretch it out, you will see that there is normal, title, heading 1, 2, 3, etc. And so it's a really good best practice in your content as you're switching from different topics to put in headers, whether they be main headers or subheaders, and that will allow students with screen readers to be able to quickly move forward from topic to topic. And if they take a break and then come back later, they don't have to start all the way at the beginning. They can actually go back and watch this or go through it with their software. Okay, numbered lists. Numbered lists, if we do them manually, there's no guarantee that they will be accessible. However, if we use the list tool inside of Word, the accessibility is indeed baked in, and they give you lots of different options. This is another good best practice. The use of hyperlinks. Now, I talked about this in Canvas, but this is what this looks like inside of Word. Let's say that you had some information that you were sending them to a YouTube video. You can highlight a word or a group of words and right click with your mouse, and you will see in the right click menu, as you can see here by the arrow that I have, it says hyperlink. When I click on that, it's going to open up this little pop-up, and the pop-up allows you to put the text that is going to tell a screen reader or even the student that's using the hover function what the title is, and then you can hide the address inside of that secondary field and click OK. And then it just makes it look really nice and clean. And again, you don't have documents with these giant hyperlinks that are 50 characters long that nobody can understand in the first place. Again, alt tags, you believe it or not, alt tagging is probably one of the biggest missed things at most universities and inside of Canvas, as far as images not being properly labeled. So inside of Word, they make it pretty easy. You can right click on an image if you do decide to put an image inside of a digital document. And you can see with the right click menu, it's Edit Alt Text. Then it has a panel that pops up on the right side of the screen, and it's very similar to how it works in Canvas. You can put in the field the actual title of what it is they're looking at, whether it be a bowl of fruit or a shoe, whatever it is. Or if it's not important to the learning, you can just click Mark as Decorative and then close the panel in the upper right-hand corner here using that little X button there. And then it just skips right over it like it never existed, which is nice. Just like Canvas, the Microsoft suite, namely Word and PowerPoint, have accessibility checkers as well. They have it built in and it runs a wizard and it is pretty user-friendly. So inside of Word, this is what it looks like. Let's say that this is your document. You would go up to the Review tab, and then underneath the Review tab, you will see that there is an accessibility checker right here. All you would do is click on that, and once you do, it's going to look through the document and outline in the right-hand panel, that vertical panel, all the things that are potential issues. You'll click on that, and then down here at the bottom, it'll tell you what it is and how to fix it, which is really helpful in making sure that the stuff we are delivering is accessible to our students. So, along with that, when we're talking about best practices, and now this goes for Canvas and anything you're creating, these are some things to just remember: the use of color, the use of fonts, and also why it's important. So immediately you can see my demonstration here. It's really good to avoid red and greens and what I call low contrast colors, because it makes it really hard to read. Whether you have a disability or not, this is going to cause eye strain over a given amount of time. Even my demonstration here, my presentation, you can see I'm using high contrast colors with a white background and just simple black text. I have seen individuals use what I call a reverse, where they use a black background with white text, but this has actually been proven to cause eye strain over time for our students, and we don't want to give them headaches. So it's really, these are some things just to be thinking of when you're putting something together. So as you can see from the chart here, if you look over to the right, look at red on green, you can read that, but if you're colorblind, red and greens are hard to distinguish. It makes it very hard to see. So if you're underlining things in red or highlighting them in red, you may want to reconsider sticking to some more standard high contrast colors such as black and white. And you can see, look at the bottom two, yellow on cyan and cyan on yellow. That's hard to look at. And these are the things that we need to be mindful of when we are delivering content to our students. The other thing are the use of fonts. You can see here, avoid italicized fonts and scripts. These are some, and you can see here on the right, I have some examples. Like a lot of it I can't read at all. Some of the easier ones to think about would be Helvetica, Courier, Arial, Verdana, and so forth. Some of the more modern ones are easier on the eyes, and they don't get pinched necessarily because not all our students have the same high-res computer screens. Okay, so with all that being said, why are these rules so important? Let's take a look at why. So you can see here, and of course these are some web examples, but as a former instructional designer over the years, I have seen Blackboard pages and Canvas pages that displayed a lot of these attributes. And you can imagine, being a student, this might be a little bit difficult to read, even if your sight is what I would call within really good ranges. If you have any kind of visual disabilities, this could be almost impossible. Here's another one. That's an actual real website right there. And so as you're looking at it, this is just motivation to take that extra step so students don't get that or that. Oh my. So as you can see, it can get pretty overwhelming in just a short time if the rules are not followed. Okay, let me go ahead and shift now as we're getting towards the end here. This is universal design for learning, which essentially means there's multiple ways to express learning and multiple ways to receive learning. The approach really developed itself years ago in architecture with the cutaways in sidewalks, and electric doors is one of my favorite examples. It was really made for folks that had trouble opening doors, that maybe they were older or they had some sort of disability. The great thing about universal design for learning is it takes from the fact that something can be created for a specific purpose, but other people find it useful as well. So meaning that it has this diverse appeal baked into it, meaning like with electric doors, maybe it was created for someone in a wheelchair, but maybe someone walking, carrying a whole bunch of groceries found that electric door helpful, or someone pushing a baby carriage, or someone making deliveries. You kind of get the idea, right? So again, it provides multiple ways to learn and multiple ways to express that learning, which is really fantastic. Not everybody is a text-only learner, and UDL provides that digital equity that is so badly needed in this day and time. You could think of it as a cousin to ADA. A lot of ADA things that when we do those best practices, it really does help foster UDL. And what that means in UDL, let's say you have a page with just text on it, maybe create an audio file for that, or even a video that gives an overview, just different ways to receive that information. So here's a great quote by Ron Mace about universal design: and the environments are usable by all people to the greatest extent possible without the need for adaptation or specialized design. And then Terrence Brady said that even though it doesn't guarantee understanding, it begs for things to be flexible so it can meet as many learners as possible. I think that's pretty cool as well. So this particular image, I think, is a good summation of UDL, where not everybody's a text-only learner, and the things that we're creating, if we think about multiple ways for them to receive that information, it makes it where we appeal to a much more broad base of learners. So thank you guys for sitting through this overview, and I just wanted to share really quickly in the next few seconds. Here are some university resources that you may want to take a look at for your classes. Here is the Student Accessibility Services. Many of you probably have links to this in your syllabi for your classes, but here's what that looks like for students. Also, for all of you faculty out there, we have the Teach Like a Texan portal that is available for everybody inside of Canvas. If it's not on your dashboard, you can go to courses and it's in there somewhere. And inside are a ton of wonderful resources. Another thing that I encourage you to take a look at that is inside of Teach Like a Texan is Anthology Ally. I know that's a mouthful. This is an autonomous program that runs in the background of Canvas and helps to make things more accessible for our students. Inside of Teach Like a Texan, this is right out of that portal, there is a wonderful section in here that you can go, and there's some videos that you can watch and just receive a brief, very digestible overview of what this is and how you can interface with it. And it's really amazing. And I would highly encourage you, if maybe you don't want to do it directly, to reach out to one of the instructional consultants so they can show you what it is and how it works, because it really is fantastic. Here's some other resources from ada.gov if you're interested in more information there. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this presentation, and have a great next semester. Take care.